Hey everybody, this is Modern Refugee. I had a subscriber mention in the comments of a previous video where they talked about conservation and preparedness. And conservation is something that you don't hear a lot of prepping channels talk about. And I thought it was a good topic for me to kind of explain the concept of conservation, and then some historical memories and recollections that I have of the way that we grew up, and how the old timers looked at conservation. They didn't waste anything, and everything had a purpose, and nothing was thrown out. That's where you get into these old estate sales and stuff. You see mason jars full of buttons, and things like crazy quilt. The old granny women, they made quilts out of the old clothing. And things got mended and repaired and used. And, like this day and age anymore, food is a big thing. Food is discarded in, when I was a kid, we didn't throw food out. You took what you took, you ate. And if there were any scraps left over, they went to the chickens. Any vegetable scrap, any old pieces of bread that didn't get used for anything, that went to the animals if it didn't have another purpose, utilize what mom and grandma would do. Even things like, bread bags. Bread bags were saved. We had an entire drawer full of bread bags growing up. You didn't buy plastic bags to put stuff in. That was stuff that was reused and reutilized. Literally everything. The strings that came out of feed bags when they would get feed up at the co-op, that string would be pulled out, balled up, and made into like a daisy chain, and it would be kept. And it was a lot mindset too. I've heard stories where when people lit the wood stove in the fall, they used one match, lit the wood stove, and that fire never went out. They never used another match all winter long because they just kept the fire going. It was really a different mindset now. Nowadays, everything has become this consumer throw-out mindset. Everybody throws, everything out. Stuff isn't repurposed like it should be, and that's why, you have so much waste in this day and age anymore. But that just isn't the way the old timers operated. And if there would be some type of event getting to preparedness, we would have to go back to that. You would have to utilize every single thing that, was an advantage to you. And if you had an overabundance of something, if you had a boon of something, you would try to utilize that, preserve that, and save that for, a different time. You get that a lot with canning and with home gardening. One year you might have a really good year of this particular crop, so you put as much of that up as you possibly can, because next year something might happen where you don't get any of it. It's the same thing like if the fish are running. You might get a whole bunch of fish at one time. Well, you can that, you preserve that, you put that up. There might be years where you might shoot 4 or 5 deer. So then you can that meat, you preserve that stuff, because maybe next season around something will happen where you don't get a deer. And so there is that whole, boon and bust mentality. But people conserved, people saved. They didn't use stuff as frequently as we do today, because we've gotten into this mindset where you can just, pop up the store, pop online, and just get another one. It's easier to throw it out and buy another one than it is to repair something or whatever. But if something would take place where the supply lines don't exist anymore, there might be some type of conflict that, disrupts the ability for you to get that stuff. Now you're looking at a situation where you have to conserve what you got. And, just like, when I was out camping here, we didn't start the campfire until later in the day because we only had an X amount of wood, and we wanted to conserve that to make it last. You can call it rationing too, I guess, if you want. Keep everything to an even amount so you can stretch out what you have. But the old timers really had it, especially the people that lived through the Depression, really had it fine tuned. And, I seen this growing up because there were still people that lived through the Depression when I was growing up. But they had a very much a conservation mentality. Everything got used and everything got utilized. There was very little waste, especially with food. Like I said, food was, I still remember when I was growing up, we had a little slop bucket, and any type of food that didn't get utilized for whatever reason, that was fed to the animals. And at worst, if that wasn't fed to the animals, it went into the compost. And Mom had a compost where she had tin on both sides, posts went in, tin on the bottom, and she would stir that. She would go out there and she would work that. And that actually produced enough heat that it would actually sterilize the ground in the compost. So if there's any weed seeds or anything in there, that wasn't in there. That would actually steam in the wintertime. It's quite an impressive thing. I wish I had some old sheets of tin and a little bit bigger area here where I could make one of those up for you guys. But, conservation is something that, doesn't cost anything. And if people talk about, preparing on a budget, I don't have a lot of money to prepare. What can I do to prepare? Bring that up to them. Say, hey, you know what? There's conservation of what you have, and utilizing everything that's available to you is a form of preparedness. So just remind them of that. But anyway, this is Modern Refugee. Appreciate all my subscribers out there. Hope you guys got a little information, a little entertainment, and something to think about here out of this video. I'm just talking about the old timers and conservation because of that comment. You guys have a good one.